Welcome to the TMC Newsroom. Rich Tehrani here. Thanks for watching us today. We're at Interop 2012 in Las Vegas, Nevada. On the program, Todd Kaloudis, who's the Senior VP of Business Development and Global Channels at Opnet. Todd, welcome to the show. Welcome back, I should say.
Thanks for having me back.
So I noticed your booth is quite busy here at the event. I'm curious, what sorts of things are you showing there?
So it's like in prior years, we're still totally focused on IT performance management. It's a super exciting space. I think in all the years we've been coming to Interop, a lot of the trends have continued to move in the same direction. More business, healthcare, finance, shopping, more stuff today depends on applications than ever before. And the complexity of networking and application architectures are continuing to get more complicated too. So keeping track of performance and making sure apps are performing well is a pretty hot field. So it's been a good show for us so far.
Now, when you think of application performance, you kind of may put that in a different subset of technology than you might networking, which maybe you consider as plumbing. How do you see the correlation between those two markets?
So that's a really good point. If you think about application performance going back many years, it's traditionally been a systems management domain topic. And the reason is that it's difficult to get meaningful application information out of network traffic. There's all kinds of reasons for that. Normally, if you want to instrument an application, you look at where the application is running. So you might have virtualized servers or physical servers scattered all over the place in data centers, and they tend to be connected over a network, wide area network, private network, but the challenge with that approach is that you only see the applications that you're instrumenting. So for DevOps and for a lot of people who work with code, that's still a very important part of APM, is really getting deep inside the internals of the applications. But the network creates it is a very interesting vantage point because the network is where all your applications meet. So you can instrument the network and you can see all the applications at the same time. The hard part about it is that networking people, historically they think about packets and links and flows and things like that. So if you want to tease out relevant application information, it's actually a very tricky problem. So that's what our company Opnet focuses on, is making sense of that data. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a typical application. It might have multiple flows that it's communicating over on the network. So figuring out what the dependencies are between those flows and being able to decode them, piece them together so that you can really look at meaningful application transactions, that is what our customers are doing today. And so that's really the link between the two. The network is more important than ever, not just to deliver the applications, but also as a key place to monitor them.
Now, probably 5-6 years ago, applications were hosted quite often in a corporate's IT data center, corporation's data center, and now, of course, there's so much of a focus on cloud, and you have the challenges of private cloud, public cloud, cloud where the application could be hosted literally on different continents, and it could change in a moment's notice. And I'm curious, how does that affect the application performance management space when you have so much variability between the private, public, and then the public clouds? Even the private clouds could theoretically have, they could be coming, or they could have data coming from all over the world. How do you deal with all of that?
So I think what you're talking about it's kind of what I referred to earlier about how the environment's getting more complicated, and what you just keyed on, that's a key trend. Cloud computing, our clients include 80 or so of the Fortune 100, and we have thousands of other customers of different sizes, and from talking to all of them, we don't believe everybody's moving to the cloud. Typically when people hear about the cloud, they're thinking about a public cloud like Amazon's EC2. We see a lot of people playing with those environments. We see a lot of private cloud. We still see a lot of people hosting applications in private data centers. But you're right that everyone's thinking about it. Whether they're moving many applications or some applications to a private or public cloud, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of migration. Also, a lot of software companies are now delivering their products as SaaS applications. So to answer your question, all of that confusion makes it more important to have a very simple, rapid ability to pinpoint what is my application touching? Where does it live? How are my end users experiencing it, regardless of where it lives? I want to know how my end users are experiencing that application. Don't talk to me about the packets or the components that are running in this cloud or this data center. Talk to me about how my end users actually see it. How long does it take to buy something with the shopping cart? Those are the types of things users care about. So what APM is really doing with all of that uncertainty is starting off with measuring that end user experience instead of the infrastructure that allows that experience to happen. And the next thing is be able to very rapidly zero in, once you understand the experience that the users have, zero in on whatever part of the infrastructure you need to answer the question you're coming up with. So one of the challenges with that is that IT performance is one of the biggest sources of data. You hear people talking about big data at the conference. That's another buzzword you hear about. And there's just a ton of data. You know, we have clients with thousands of network devices. They each have configurations. There's millions of packets flying around at any given second. You have all this information that's stored on your servers. There's metrics, there's operating system things, there's log files. You have all these different sources of data. So if you're able to do APM the right way, and you can monitor how your end users are experiencing transactions, then how do you basically make sense of all that data so that regardless of where the application's hosted, private cloud, public cloud, new data center, old data center, how do you very rapidly zero in and answer the question? So, you know, that's the subject of research and development. You know, Opnet obviously focuses a lot on that. And the challenge is really collecting data from lots of places and then building all the analytics you need to very rapidly zero in and produce something that's useful to a person to solve a problem.
So Todd, we've got some of your customers who are dealing with customer-facing apps where customers are on the open web. And I'm curious if many of these customers are using your solutions because they're concerned about how fast their sites are to those end users, but just as importantly, how search engines will index them, because in the last few years, search engines have said that we will penalize slow sites. I'm curious, does that come up at all?
So, I'll tell you how it comes up. There's a lot of technologies out there that do web analytics of various kinds to make sure that companies that have online presence are hitting the right demographics and that they're understanding the behavior of their customers. So that's a space that's getting pretty mature. You raise an interesting question, which is how does APM really, what's the intersection between APM and the analytics that people use to run websites? Search engines clearly are connected to that concept. So where we see that coming across in our business of IT performance management is a lot of companies are asking the simple question, what is my end user seeing? So for example, if I go and I click on a website, I know that they clicked from Google Analytics or some other analytics tool. I know that they were there. I might know something about where they're coming from. I don't know how long it took in order to download that web page. That's one of the tricky questions that people are asking.
Right.
So we answer that question in a couple of ways, and this is a very hot topic right now. We have one of the ways that we conquer this very dynamic and mobile environment that we live in is we have new technology that will actually instrument end user browsers. So you can have a mobile application that's hitting a website, and we can actually see exactly what that user is seeing. So without taking any personal information, figure out and show the guy who's running the website, here is all over the world, here's a heat map of how your users are hitting it. So for a lot of customers, that's a very simple way to use APM technology to make sure that that experience is optimal. Now there's another half of that, which is if you're the person running that website, now that I know how my end users are experiencing it, what do I do inside my web farm? You know, you have a bunch of systems there, virtualized systems, physical systems, and those are complicated environments. Web servers, databases, all interconnected. So we're also attacking that problem of monitoring and problem solving from that data center. So put instrumentation inside the data center for the people who actually have to improve the performance. They want to know how to improve it. And that's where the other side of APM comes in.
So for those viewers that are still with us, and thank you for watching, they're obviously interested in what you're doing, and they probably are wondering, what are the pains that you can take away for their organization? In other words, what problems do they have that Opnet can solve for them? Could you list out those things that make their lives easier that your products, your company provides?
Yeah, sure. So I'd love to answer that with kind of two categories that we address. One is IT operations management. So for people that are grappling with all this big data problem I referred to, they've got all this data, they've got networks, applications, server farms, mobile users. We make it very quick and very easy for them to solve a problem in production. So someone calls in, something's chronically slow, or they're throwing money at upgrades and they're not getting a benefit in performance. We're able to very rapidly help them pinpoint where the problem is and what investment they need to make to fix it. So that's probably the main thing that people come to us for. The second problem that we address is really in the DevOps domain. So I'll give you a great example. I spoke to a really interesting guy recently who works at a healthcare company, and he works in DevOps. And this company sells billions of dollars of healthcare technology. That's what their business is. And he was explaining to me that the way they sell their product is they'll roll out these video-based training applications. So it's critical that when they roll those out, they work well. And if they roll them out and they work well, their salespeople get educated, and then those new products start to sell. If it doesn't work well, they have to pull the training back, and their revenue gets delayed. So we're able to help customers like that who have really important applications. We can help them using the same APM technology, that same broad instrumentation, that rapid analysis capability. Before something is rolled out, understand it, monitor it, analyze it, make sure it's going to work when it gets rolled out, and do it quickly. Those are probably the two areas that we're focused primarily on.
So Todd, final question, what's next?
What's next? Well, I think we have a lot of runway with this vision of making it easier and simpler to manage performance. So I think what you're going to continue to see from Opnet are broader instrumentation, more parts of the IT infrastructure that we're going to collect data from, and more advanced analytics to basically very efficiently pull that data in and make it easy for people in IT to solve problems for their customers.
Awesome.
That's the plan, and it's an exciting plan. We're pretty pumped about it.
Thanks for being here. This is great.
Thank you, Rich.